what we're going to do is we're going to talk about disruption in the auto industry until around 12:15, and then I'm going to give you about 45 minutes for lunch, and then we're going to come back at 1 and work our way through your 11 presentations. If we run them tightly, we will have a second participant speaker after the presentations are over. So the intention is we're going to go through what's happening in the auto industry at about 11:30. A former student of mine, Lisette Bacher, took this course 2 years ago, is working at Pininfarina in Munich, and she's going to be dialing in. She's got a great presentation she's going to share with us. This is the best of both worlds company. This is a combination of Italian design and German engineering, okay? And what they've built is a $1.3 million, 100% electric hypercar that goes from 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, okay? And she sold her first 2 cars last week. So I'm sure she's going to be in a very good mood, okay? Now, after you guys present, I have a company, an MIT spin-out from Wise Systems, and you saw the postings on my courses. So Wise Systems kind of connects back to our AI class, because you may remember we talked about there are companies that will build their own data science, and there are companies that will license it, right? So of course Uber and Amazon and companies like that, Netflix, have created their own algorithms, but companies like Budweiser and others that are featured in this video are relying on third parties to deliver algorithms and data science, and that's what Wise Systems does. So they kind of help companies optimize the way that they route their logistics and their supply chain, okay? So 2 very different ends of the spectrum. We've got on the one hand the meat and potatoes version of delivering beer and delivering consumer packaged goods in trucks, and on the other hand we have the ultra luxury hypercar that retails for about $2 million, okay? So we'll see, and in between is what we're going to talk about today. Now, you will be presenting in random order. We'll be putting your numbers in a hat, and you could go first or last or anywhere in between, okay? And just to be clear, 6 minutes presentation, 2 minutes Q&A, 2 minutes feedback, okay? Any questions before we start on any of this? Okay, now just one announcement. Who wants to work in the IT industry when you graduate, when you finish up? Anybody looking forward to working in IT? So, if you are so inclined, the week of, I think it's the 9th or so of December, there are 2 major conferences in Seattle that are co-located. One of them is called Kubernetes Conference, and Kubernetes is sort of a next generation orchestration platform for managing applications in the cloud, and the other is the Open Cloud Initiative. And these two conferences represent the future of where the computing industry is heading, and they do have a student rate. And if I'm not mistaken, the student rate was about $250. So it's an incredibly affordable conference. And a lot of the experts believe this is the year when this next generation platform really starts to accelerate, okay? So for those of you who want to make a career in the industry, and you have the time and the finances to help you do so, I would suggest you think about finding your way to Seattle. I'll be there all week. I'll be getting there on Sunday, and I'll be there through that Friday. Okay? I wouldn't miss it for the world, okay? All right, so let's talk about what's happening in the auto industry. And I think this is a very appropriate way to wrap up our course together, because I think it embodies all of the different themes and all of the different learning outcomes that we've spoken about, okay? The second thing I think it does is it shows that disruption doesn't just happen to companies. Disruption can happen to a city or a state or a country if you've lost your technological edge. So if you think about the great arms race to develop world premier status in AI, right? One of the countries that could potentially lose a lot of their status is India. Now, why do I say that? Why would India have so much to lose when it comes to artificial intelligence if they don't keep up with the technology? What is India known for?
Population.
What's that?
Population.
Well, of course they're known for population, but this is not a population course. This is a business model innovation and disruption course, right? So what is it known for, Thorsten?
I mean, IT support and IT development.
So a lot around IT, okay, a lot around consulting, so very much job-specific or project-based IT, okay? And how about you, please? Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that.
Okay, so why if they're known for this more project-based IT, would it put them at risk of AI? What will AI likely do to the kind of IT that is practiced? Yeah, please.
Natural language processing, among other things. A concrete example, I called Apple's support the other day, and I guarantee that was not a person, but it felt like I was having a conversation.
Okay.
So why do you need those call centers?
Okay, so the call center agent certainly can get displaced, right? So that's one, what we'll call a very mundane task that is extremely easily disrupted, and there's a massive number of employees in call centers in India. Amato, what else? Going back to Thorsten's point, right? I mean, it's not just call centers. It's low-level software development, okay? It's relatively non-innovative, non-bleeding edge software. I just like it. Because you're awake. Because you're awake. Okay? That's all you need. Just I set a very low bar for you. Okay? If you're awake, we got you. Okay. All right. You had your hand up? Okay. So the country, AI is going to be the next significant disruptor of not just companies, but countries, okay? And it's the same thing now for what we're seeing with the auto industry, right? Obviously, the Japanese and the Germans are building the best cars in the world today, okay? They've had a long history of doing so, okay? But I think in Thorsten, by the way, Thorsten, is it fair to tell people that you were here because you were being sponsored? Is that a fair thing? Is that, I'm not speaking out of school. So Thorsten is here, he's being sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, okay? And Thorsten plans to go back to Mercedes-Benz. We had hoped to have the Open Innovation Manager of the Mercedes-Benz R&D lab in Silicon Valley join us today, but the timing didn't work out. But what I think, we talked about is that Mercedes-Benz isn't moving as quickly as they need to. Why? Because you know why. Tell me why. What's the key lesson of this class? Why do most companies not move forward with innovation? What prevents them from moving forward? Yeah, please.
I think there's a big part of bureaucracy in big companies.
Well, bureaucracy is a part of it, but in this instance, Ford knows they have to do something, but they're not. What would you say?
It's the culture, it's traditional, and they feel like they're treated fairly.
Well, there's a cultural aspect, but there's something far more basic. Money talks, right? They're making a ton of money on these gorgeous cars, whether it be a BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi, and it's very, very unprofitable to make an electric car today. So here's this company struggling, this industry, this German industry. They make world-class cars, and they know that the world around them is collapsing, but they're long before the opioid crisis, okay? There was the crisis of, I'm afraid to cannibalize my own company. But we're going to see with Detroit how wrong that is and how structurally powerful it is to ignore what's happening in the world, okay? Now, so we're going to see a combination for the first time of these old world, 100-year-old heritage brands combining with these new age companies, whether it be Tesla or Waymo or Nutonomy or companies like this, okay? So, this is, this was the last industrial revolution, okay? And when Henry Ford created the Model T, it wasn't the Model T that was his most important invention. What was his most important invention? Please, Natasha?
The assembly line, because
the assembly line.
Bring effectiveness and scalability. And I would say a second point too, his vision to make an affordable car, for masses.
Yeah. So how did he arrive at this assembly line? Was it something he just dreamed of, or was it a derivative of something else? Logan?
Watching meat production.
So he looked at slaughterhouses, and what did he do? So he was inspired by the slaughterhouse, for God forbid anybody's inspired by a slaughterhouse, but what did he see in the slaughterhouse that gave him an insight, Thorsten, that led him to creating the first really modern manufacturing plant?
Like continuing same like handling steps. So basically a butcher does the same cut for like 100 times every day and like
Okay.
does it over and over again and yeah.
Okay,
improves
so,
himself.
so what he saw was that the manufacturing process of meat could be broken down into some very simple, replicable parts. Now the difference is, with meat processing, you were disassembling the cow. You were disassembling the animal. Here, you were assembling the car out of many, many parts, okay? So this is where innovation can be inspired by many things, and this is, you know, connecting the dots, to look into the slaughterhouse industry, the meat processing industry, and to have an insight that led to, quite frankly, the industrialization of the world, okay? Remarkable insight, okay? And all these cars were, you want to talk about an MVP, okay? What they basically did is they put a combustion engine on a horse buggy, okay? Not the most luxurious way to travel, on roads that were not paved and full of dust, okay? But this was the MVP. This was the famous Model T. You can have it in any color you want as long as it's black, okay? Just like Steve Jobs would tell you, right? And here's their first advertisement, right? Incredibly creative advertisement. The Ford 4-cylinder, 20 horsepower, baby. Okay? I love it. Crazy, huh? And then we fast forward, okay? And not only, you know, long before we had an opioid addiction, we had a cheap oil addiction, okay? This country was built around the automobile, period. You can look at our highways, you can look at the way all of our, you know, our cities are designed. We're designed around the oil embargo. And that is just as clear today with our friend the Orange Clown saying what everybody knows not to be true, which is that Khashoggi was not killed by the head of the Saudi government today, that it was just a rogue guy that acted, even though the CIA has proven beyond the shadow of a doubt, right? So we'll do anything to bend over backwards for cheap oil in this country. How we roll, okay? And so, of course, you've got all of this very, very, very stable supply of oil, and then in 1973, all hell breaks loose. Okay? And the price of oil increases by orders of magnitude. And for the first time in our country, right, we just took for granted, we were fat, dumb, and happy, we just took for granted that gasoline would always be 10 cents a gallon. Imagine that. 10 cents a gallon, okay? Can you imagine how insane that might sound to you guys? But this was our reality. And then one day we wake up and we pissed off the Arabs, and OPEC, this consortium, comes together and they say, oh, we're going to stop selling oil to the U.S. Wow. What a pivotal moment in this country. And for the first time, they rationed gas. They gave you very small amounts of gas. You can only get it on certain days of the week. You could wait in line for hours to get gasoline. Okay? Now, one would think at this time that the auto industry would say, maybe we need to be a little bit thoughtful about what's going to happen long term. But did the auto industry do that? Nah. Okay? They kept building these big gas-guzzling boats. At the time, we didn't have SUVs, but we had these big-ass station wagons and these muscle cars and these V8 engines that got you like 4 miles to gallon with the windows at your back, okay? And when you have 10 cent a gallon gas, that's cool. Nobody cares. Now, I was in Oakland. I don't know if anybody's been to Oakland lately, but I love the irony of this. This is called the Can't Fail Cafe. Now, the problem with the Can't Fail Cafe is the Can't Fail Cafe failed, okay? So the auto industry in Detroit went and had a burger at the Can't Fail Cafe, okay? They stuck their head in the ground and they said, okay, the price of oil has now gone back to something reasonable, so let's go right back to where we've always been. Let's keep making big-ass cars with big-ass engines that burn a lot of gas, okay? Because what the hell, why not? Because why? Because they're addicted to the profits, that's why. Okay? Now, if Detroit had listened to Paul Graham of Y Combinator, they would have been thinking different. Make something people really want.